Hi everyone! Welcome to Notes on the 6 characteristics of life that biologists agree on for now. Let's do these notes while you have this open in your Google Classroom. So follow along. Oh, before we get to this is how we take notes in 7th grade. We rarely have you write them down in a notebook, so you don't have a notebook for our class. They're mostly structured, they're mostly in Google Classroom. Sometimes they're on paper, but rarely. So just FYI, that's a routine that we have. All right. So there are how many characteristics of life that we're currently agreed on? Well, let's see. There are 6. So there are 6 characteristics of life. Remember, a characteristic is like a quality or a thing that something has to have or do, in this case, to be alive. We're going to go through each of the 6 characteristics. We're going to name it. We're going to finish the example and take a look at the picture to help us visualize it. All 3 are great to help you remember the 6 characteristics of life. Here we go. So the first characteristic, well, let's take a look at the example and the picture. It usually comes from the blank. And if we look right here, there's a big old sun. So this one needs energy. All right, and this usually comes from the sun. Fun fact, some deep water organisms use chemicals using a process called chemosynthesis. In this case, we're using photosynthesis for the sun. So it's not always, spell check there. It's not always from the sun, but it uses or needs energy. All right, for this one, plants use water to grow in a chemical reaction called, we just said this, photosynthesis. Humans need water to balance chemicals and temperature, and that's a process called homeostasis. And so our second one right here is it uses water. Okay. Hey, if any of these words you're having trouble spelling, don't forget down at the bottom here, there's a word bank. So you could capture the words and cut and paste and put them up. If you can, take the time to spell them out. It'll help you remember the words a little bit better. But if you need them, that's a resource down there you can use. All right, number 3, we have these interesting pictures here. These 2 are actually pictures of things that you are going to be able to see yourself under the microscope and using your Chromebook. This one right here is called a euglena, and it's green. And this is a picture of onion cells close up. And you'll be able to see those in about December or January. We're going to take a look at those. So for these cells, you can see this one's by itself. It's just one. Some organisms are only one cell, and they can just be alive with that one cell. They are called unicellular. You can think about this prefix uni, like unicorn, unicycle, uniform, university. They all mean one. We have lots of different word parts in science, so you'll often see me breaking down words into the different parts to help you understand the meaning. Some things that are living have many cells, and they are called multicellular. Cells are very small most of the time. I mean, eggs are cells, and technically an ostrich egg is a cell, and that's quite large, but most of the time when we're talking about cells, we're talking about things that are microscopic. So that means we need a microscope to see them. Over here for our characteristic, so far we have needs or uses energy, uses water, and this one is they are made of cells. Even though the box is really big, that's all we need to write here, mostly because this box is big, so the other one has to be too. All right, this you might have heard of before. Butterflies and frogs go through a process where their entire body changes, and that's called metamorphosis. We don't go through metamorphosis, but we do change as we grow. In fact, if you want to annoy a toddler, you just need to do this. Toddlers are organized in a way that helps them, as they're growing and developing, fall over and still be okay. Their arms and legs are very short, and most average humans can go like this, and toddlers can't do that. Their arms can't go over their head. And as we grow up, we develop. And that's this one. Grow and develop. Our bodies change and they get bigger. Even unicellular organisms do. All right, this one's a little bit tricky, but it sort of makes sense. Here we go. This one is responds to stimuli. You can kind of think about it like this stick figure dude, and he gets poked, and if you poke someone, they say, ow. That's basically what response to stimulus is. Response is the ow, and the stimuli is the poke. So it doesn't have to always be a physical poking. You can also see that this plant here is responding to the stimulus of sunlight by growing to the light. And so we have response means action, stimulus is the singular form, and stimuli is the plural form. Those of you who take Latin, you might recognize that. Stimulus is a thing or event that causes a specific reaction. So it's kind of like cause and effect, but it responds to the stimuli. If you poke a rock, it won't necessarily respond. And you can think about this actually, interestingly, in different time lengths as well. So when I say poke and you say ow, that's instantaneous, but a plant might take a long time to get to that window, days or weeks. Trees take a long time too, so not everything is immediate. Lastly, reproduces. Okay, so there's two types of reproduction that we're going to be talking about. The first one is called sexual reproduction, and that's when organisms come together and swap DNA. That can be for things like dogs. Example, not all dogs look the same as their parents. And then we also have asexual, which is cloning, where you often don't need two partners, and the offspring look identical. There's actually a species of lizard called whiptails, and they're all female because they all have to be identical, and they're all clones. And we'll talk about the benefits and disadvantages to sexual and asexual reproduction later on. Let's take a look at the last couple things. To be alive, it must have all 6 characteristics. If it's missing only even one of them, not alive. 2 more words, or 3 more words here. We have a living thing is called an organism. So you might hear me say living thing, you might hear me say organism, you might even hear me say creature. They all kind of mean living thing. In a habitat, living things are called biotic. And those also encompass things that were once alive as well, whereas non-living things are called abiotic. You'll notice that prefix a in this case means not. So far you should have all the notes of the characteristics of life. If you missed any parts, just drag the video bar back a bit and you can replay any part of this. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.